Hello everyone and welcome to the recap of round number 6 of the Austrian Championship. Today I played another friend of mine, Valentin Dragnev, one of the strongest grandmasters of Austria as well. And unfortunately I lost this game. It was very tense and very equal until the end, but then I blundered, as we will now take a look and see. So he played e4, e5. I played really solid. I played the Berlin defense, and he went for d3, which is kind of already announcing that white wants to go for a fight. If he would castle, then this would be like a very solid way to play the game where there's not much to get for white. But he played d3, which leaves more pieces on the board, and therefore white is going for a fight here. Bishop c5, and now he goes for bishop takes c6, d takes c6, and now black has the bishop pair, but white has the better pawn structure, since these pawns here are doubled. And yeah, there's a lot of theory here, but overall black is also very solid. He played 92, 97, this is one of my pet lines. I'm just protecting the pawn on e5. White anyway cannot capture immediately, always because of queen d4 when black is winning. But it's just overprotecting the pawn here on e5, and later on the knight could also come via f6, 96, knight f8, 96 to this d4 square later on. He went castle, knight c4, rook e8. I wanted to delay f6 because often if you play f6 then it allows white to go knight h4 and then knight f5. So I didn't want him to have this, therefore I went rook e8 and protected the pawn like this. He went a4, I went a5, pretty logical, bishop e3, and now I took on e3, which I think caught him by surprise. He was prepared until now. Probably he was more familiar with the first engine choice, which is f6. Or black could also move the bishop and keep the bishop pair. There are numerous options here, but after some thought I just decided to take here, which allows him to go for this structure here. Knight takes e3 is objectively maybe a bit better, even though I think the position is just equal anyway. But f takes e3, now the FL opens up. White also has doubled pawns now, but white has a lot of play on the king side connected with knight h4, knight f5, as we will also see, which happened in the game. I played b6, queen e1, and bishop a6, maybe a step in the wrong direction. I wanted just to kick out this knight from c4, but the bishop was kind of misplaced later on a6. Knight d2, queen e7, knight h4, and now I just went g6 to prevent knight f5, queen g3, king h8, rook f2, he's doubling the rooks on the f-file, which makes a lot of sense. And now I went rook g8, which looks very strange and passive, but I just want to put this rook on g8 and the other one on f8 just to guard the king side here. He went h3, which I think is a great move. Later on he has the idea to play knight f3, knight h2, knight g4, and then either knight h6, and or also to put pressure on the square on f6, and if there's a pawn later on, to put pressure on the pawn here. So that's the point of h3, rook f8 still, rook f1, f6. I thought sooner or later I anyway have to make this move just to guard the pawn on e5. He went knight f3, and now knight c5. Computer points out that c5 is strong here, but I totally missed the idea that after b3 I can often give this pawn here with c4, and when I guessed that after b takes c4 black is playing for some compensation, and this pawn on a4 is also weak, which will probably fall, but this was not obvious to me. I went knight c5, he went b3. Knight takes e5 was also something I calculated, but at least I thought f takes e5 is good enough for me. When after rook f8, rook f8, rook f8, queen f8, queen takes e5 check. Now if king g8, queen takes c7, I did not like my position because white has already 3 pawns, and one of them will probably still, one more of them will fall. But I thought after queen g7, white doesn't have anything better than to repeat moves here, since after queen takes e6, I thought queen f7 here, and then bishop b7 is coming, pawn on a4 is weak, and white has 3 pawns for the piece, but they are doubled as well, and there I thought I'm already better. So knight e5 is not working that well if white wants to play for win. Also knight takes e4 is an option which, according to the computer, is better for black. I didn't fully understand everything here, but I saw that I at least have a draw here with f takes e5. He went b3, queen g7, and now I kind of blundered that knight takes e5 might be a good idea here. And what I didn't see after f takes e5, now rook takes f8 would be similar again. White has b3 extra, but I don't think it makes a lot of difference. But he has knight takes g6, which I totally missed. And the point is after hg6, there is queen h4 check. And now white has a rook and 2 pawns for the 2 pieces. And here he would just be winning because the rooks are infiltrating. The best would be to to take with the queen. That's also what I saw later on. And here, apparently rook takes f2 is the best. I thought about this, rook takes f8, and now I thought I could somehow hold everything together. I even thought about taking here, which is probably bad. Yeah, king g7, this is just losing after rook a8, when the bishop is getting trapped, it seems like. But there are some ways to fight on. It seems like rook takes f2, queen takes g8, king takes g8, rook f2, and white seems to be better, but it won't be easy for him to break through. I'm still pretty solid, and once the rook, if the rook cannot enter here along the f file, then it should be more or less holdable for me, I guess. But he went knight h2, now I went bishop c8, the point that now after knight g4 I can take here. White is a bit better here now, but I thought I would be still pretty solid here. Turns out the position is already pretty bad here. I played h6 just to stop all sorts of g5 things. Knight e6 apparently is more accurate, and after knight f3 I should play g5. But this looks pretty ugly. White most likely can maneuver the knight somehow to f5, and black doesn't have any active plans, so this doesn't look very enjoyable for black. I went h6, and now knight f3 was a big mistake. Apparently queen h2 was the way to go, but I still don't think the position is that clear. I'm not sure what I intended. Yeah, now queen e7 doesn't work because of g5, and I cannot take with the pawn because of knight g6, and otherwise here everything is collapsing. Just knight takes g6 is winning. I think I intended to play knight e6 if I'm not wrong. But yeah, according to the computer now, d4 is more or less crushing here, which I did not really see, and I guess neither did he. He went knight f3, and now queen e7, and now I managed to stabilize everything here with the king on g7. Now everything is protected, and it's, now he decides to break through with d4, went knight d7, knight f3 back. Just to point out, taking immediately I thought is not good, because after knight takes e4 he has queen e3, and I have some problems along this e-file here with the pin. Therefore I went back, knight d7, knight f3, and now c5, just putting pressure on the center here. Apparently I can also just wait here with queen e6, which is also kind of logical. It's probably hard for him to find a plan anyway. If he puts the rooks on the d-file now, just rook f7, and I'm just consolidating, and if he pushes any pawns here, he might also end up making some extra weaknesses. I went c5, rook d2, rook f7, just guarding the 7th rank, rook e1, rook d1, and now I decided to take here. Maybe I should have gone rook e8 first, a bit more cautious here. It looks like I'm already even a bit better in the game. I did not think so. I thought d5 is also always something to watch out for. I saw this idea with c4, but I didn't think that it's that good. I thought it's just unclear. Seems like I'm already much better here, which is very surprising to me. So rook e8 would have probably put a lot of pressure on him already, so this would have been a wiser choice. I decided to force matters, which is also good. Here I originally intended to play queen takes e4, but after rook e1 I was very unsure about the position. Apparently it's equal. I thought the queen should go somewhere back, let's say queen b7, and now something like d5. And even though I'm a pawn up here, he has control along the e-file, and my pieces are kind of passive, so I did not really like this position. Therefore I took on d4, now queen takes c7. I also thought rook takes d4 as an option, but after knight e5 I thought it's just a draw here. If he takes everything and rook d7, I thought I have rook f8, and there's just nothing happening here that should be a draw. But he went queen takes c7, queen takes e4, now it got pretty sharp, rook e1, queen takes g4. There were some other moves. I think rook takes d4, I just have queen e3 check, and then knight e5. This is not a problem. Knight takes d4 I was also calculating, but I think I intended to go knight e5 anyway, and then take on g4, and the position is just a mess here. He went rook e1, queen g4, queen d6, and now knight e5 was a strong move, because otherwise he will take on d4, and then I always have to watch out for knight e6. Could be unpleasant, so I decided to simplify here with knight e5, and he has to take because I thought knight takes d4 fails to rook d7. At least this is what I calculated during the game, but it seems like this is not clear at all. After knight f3, king f1, queen takes d4, there's queen c7, king h8, gf. Okay, and position is still somewhat balanced. Pretty crazy lines here. But yeah, after knight takes d4, it turns out I have some other moves like rook e8, and his king starts to be pretty unsafe here on g1. Yeah, but he took on e5, f takes e5, apparently queen g3 is also a move, but probably doesn't matter that much. Queen takes e5, king h7, rook d4, queen c8. Basically the only square I can go. If queen f5, I will get a worse version of the endgame which happened in the game. So queen c8, queen e6, rook gf8. I thought I have to exchange queens now. If maybe I could also go something like queen c7, but probably I have problems with the pawn on b6 on the long run here. This pawn is pretty weak. So I just decided to let him trade queens, and I thought it's a pretty simple draw, and it actually is. So I really shouldn't have lost this. After rook takes c2, rook d6 he played, and I went rook g7, which I think is logical. Apparently also rook c1 is a draw, and rook c5 now, which I don't totally get, but I guess everything is just, it's basically all the same. Everything is a draw, rook c5, rook b5. I played rook c7, which was probably not the best decision. According to the engine, rook takes b5 is more accurate than now rook d7, but to me it seems like it will transpose to the game or be very similar. So rook c7, rook a6, now I took, and I went king g7. The problem here is if I go rook c3 right away, then he has rook a7 check, and my king has to go back to the back rank, and now b6, rook b3, b7, and on the next move he has rook a8 check and b8. And he's just winning the rook. So I went king g7, and now he went b6. I actually thought he would take on a5, and then I thought I wanted to play rook b7 here, and I was not entirely sure here. I thought it should be a draw after king f6, king e3, king e5, but I thought this is what he would try. He's still a pawn up, and yeah, but I guess he thought the other line was more challenging, and it turned out that he was right. At least I had a hard time finding the right moves. He went b6, rook c5. Rook c3 looks logical, but I thought, and it's true, it fails to b4 here, and now if a takes b4, now b7, and now I cannot stop the pawn. So I went rook c5. Now I just want to go rook b5 next. King f2, rook b5, king e3. Now I took on b3, which maybe was a wrong step, a step in the wrong direction already. My opponent pointed out to me after the game that rook b4 might be easier, and yeah, now he has to take the pawn on a5 at some point, and then I will get the pawn on b6, not the pawn on b3, which of course is much better for me, because then the pawn on b3 will take a much longer time to reach his final destination on b8. So yeah, after something like king d3, h5, king c3, I guess I can just go king h6 or h4, and yeah, it's just a draw. If he takes here, takes, and I will be fast enough here with my pawn. So this would have been by far the easiest. I took on b3 and went h5, which is still a draw after king c5, but now I made the final blunder, and actually a nice exercise if you want to think for yourself and try not to make the blunder which I made. There's I think only one way to hold the draw here, which is rook b2, and yeah, it seems like it's a draw. At least that's what I discussed with my opponent as well. And yeah, I just want to pick up this pawn here on g2, and then give up my rook for the b pawn, and then hope that my 2 pawns here are enough to hold the draw. For example, rook takes a5. Now, again, important intermediate check, rook c2 check. Otherwise, the game would be lost, because after rook takes g2, he has b7, and after rook b2, now rook b5 is just game over. But I have rook c2 check, and now if the king moves, now I can take here, and after rook b5, I can yeah, probably give up my rook at some point here, or I can just give some checks. Yeah, just to point out something like this, b7. He cannot even really hide with the king. Yeah, I can just go king h6, and if he goes somewhere here, yeah, now it's important. I have rook c7, then I give the rook, and this should be objectively a draw. But I made the final blunder, which was rook c3. I don't know what I was thinking. And after king d6, I originally wanted to play rook g3 at some point, but then I kind of mixed up move orders, went rook c3 first. I guess maybe I could also go rook g3 right away. Okay, this is also not working, because after b7, rook c2, king d6, rook b2, king c7. Now I thought I can take, but yeah, turns out this is lost. I thought I always have great drawing chances here, but Yeah, this is already a draw, but king d4 is this is strong. And now I cannot go for the opposition because he takes on g6, and otherwise he will just run back with the king and win the game. So yeah, this was all right, but here I have to go for rook b2. This is the only move, and g3 was also something I was not sure about, but now I can go g5, and now I'm in time with counterplay here on the king side with h4 to come. Yeah, rook c3 was such a pity, and yeah, after the king entered here now, I realized that I'm not in time to pick up the pawn here, because he can just go king a7, rook g2, and now if rook b2, he has rook b6, and I cannot even give up my rook for the pawn here. So yeah, I tried h4, b7, h3, takes, and now he went king a7, which I was first surprised to see. I thought he would just go king c7 and I would resign, because after rook c3 check, here, rook c3, king d6, and I thought the king just goes back, and yeah, now, even though I have 2 pawns, this is just not enough. He will just pick up this pawn, and then the king will blockade the pawn on g6. But yeah, he went king a7, which is also winning. Yeah, this is just over. Rook takes a5 important. And yeah, here I resigned, because this is actually nice to know. This position here, if white stays with the rook here, let's say he goes king d6, this is just winning, because always after g3 there is rook a3, and if g2, rook g3, just picking up this pawn here. So yeah, this endgame was quite a pity that I lost it. Really should have held the draw here. There were numerous opportunities. Also even had some slight chances before. I mean, he also had a nice advantage after the opening, I would argue. But I think I should have kept the tension here and went rook e8 instead. I was also up on the clock here, I think. At least a little bit, and this would have put yeah, quite some pressure on him, and I don't think I would have lost the game here if I went rook e8. So yeah, thank you for watching. In the meanwhile, you can follow me on my socials, on Instagram, on Twitter, you can check out my website, felixburberger.com. And until then, thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.